All right, so you raised a question on Reddit, and it had to do with, what do you do with the awkward arm and wrist angles you get when you're having to play a little further down the keyboard? And the example you gave would be a tremolo on A3 and A4. And for sure, if I'm there or further down, you start getting this kind of uncomfortable wrist angle. If I just kind of hold it up here so you can see it starts turning like that. Ooh, nasty. And the moment you mentioned that, I started thinking about Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata, first movement in the development section. And there is a descending passage of not quite tremolos, but alternating eighth note, octave notes. And you get down into this position. And so there's a couple of things that I do to handle something like that. And you've already mentioned a couple of them. One is actually sitting back. Now I've seen some newer pianists on Reddit, and they're tucked right into the keyboard like this, and so like they're at their work ready to type, and this instantly creates these more difficult angles with your wrists, so they can be a little more straight when you just sit back. And when I think about my position, my knees are just under the keyboard. Now my arms are long too, so that probably works for me and maybe not others. But definitely that movement back allows you to get your arms going and you can play far more comfortably. Second thing you mentioned is the lean. And so in this Beethoven, as it descends, I'm leaning over more and more. And so by the time I get here, now both my hands are completely below middle C, and all of my weight is on my left butt cheek. I wouldn't want to stay here too long, but I can do it. So that's the second thing that you do. And then the third thing I would suggest, and this is something I don't know that I did consciously, but is I don't actually have my right hand perfectly square to the keys. So if you think about the keys going this direction, my fingers are not pointing that way either. I've actually just modified them just a little bit so that my hand is kind of an angle. So I'm going to flip the screen. I don't have an overhead camera to demonstrate this, so I'm going to flip my screen around and you can see what I mean. Okay, so here's that Beethoven passage that I talked about. Maybe you know it, and it's all very low register. And so I get down to here, and as I approach that, and I'm going to freeze frame there, and you can see that my thumb is very much on the edge here, and my pinky's up here, very close to the black note. So if you had to draw a line between those two things, that line would go like this. So my hand is not square. That you can see what an awful wrist angle that would create. My hand was like that, and that is just enough to alleviate the pressure. And even this little nasty all of that kind of stuff, I can do quite comfortably. However, incompetently, but I can do very comfortably with my hand more at this angle. Again, I'm down here with the thumb. So it works to be on that angle. Again, the line is more like this. I wouldn't want to play all my rep like that, but sometimes you can pull that out, and that takes some of the pressure off your wrist. So I hope that helps.